Andrey Kovatchev MEP, you are the chair of the Bulgarian delegation in the European People's Party. You've written a letter to outline the concerns you have about a minister within the current caretaker government. Can you outline what the issues are?
We have a second now in a row parliamentary election scheduled for 11th of July, and according to our constitution, the president needs to nominate a caretaker government with the main goal of this caretaker government to organize transparent and fair elections. What we are worrying and surprised is that this caretaker government actually is not following the main goal, but is removing almost everybody in different services. For example, in the intelligence services, the deputy chief of the intelligence services, which is quite worrying because these services are working on the counteract the espionage network of Kremlin, which is working within the territory of the European Union. And the steps of the caretaker government are very questionable. Why? This is the most important, not to organize fair and transparent elections, but to change the heads of the intelligence services, also regional governors, the administration changes, and this government is not controlled by parliament. This government is only nominated by the President Radev, and President Radev is quite, how to say, pro-Kremlin friendly. He never condemned, for example, the annexation of Crimea. He many times asked for lifting of the sanctions, saying that the sanctions related to this illegal annexation of Crimea are not working, and we don't need them. And we need in the European Union unity, unanimity on this very important topic towards our position towards Russia.
In the letter, there is a claim that the minister appointed a chief of staff who was affiliated to Vasil Bozhkov, who is currently in Dubai avoiding charges that the Bulgarian that have been raised in Bulgaria, 19 offences. This is obviously very serious, if true. Is this something that you will be raising with the European Commission, especially with view to their commitments in the certification and verification mechanism to fight organised crime and improve judicial reform? This has to be a concern if this person is actually being brought into government.
That was very strange that the minister didn't know about this situation, that the appointed by him chief of staff has linked to the party of Mr. Bojkov, and almost impossible to believe that such important positions will be taken by somebody that the minister don't know about this very important fact. So this is a worrying indeed situation, and this is why we consider European Union not as something outside of Bulgaria. We are part of we are European Union also in Bulgaria. So this is why it's important that the colleagues and the Commission are aware about our feelings that something is happening which we don't feel that is okay.
In your letter, you make connections between what's happening at the moment and Bulgaria's past. Can you maybe say a bit more about what that link is and what it tells us about what's happening at the moment?
Unfortunately, even 30 years after the formal end of the communist dictatorship, we didn't make a clear historical reconciliation, and there are people who are very much linked to the communist regime, and unfortunately some of the people was now nominated in this caretaker government, even with the rhetoric from these days, under the secret police of the communist regime, the term former people related to people who are in opposition to the communism. And now, unfortunately, we hear from the Minister of Interior the same vocabulary from the communist regime, calling people from GERB, from my party, as former people, which is a very downgrading and something which should be not used in political discussions. They should be left on the without such kind of degrading expressions.
Earlier in the year, I interviewed a group of Bulgarians who were demonstrating in Brussels, and they were concerned very much about corruption. They had been prompted in a way by, I think, the actions of an MEP, Hristo Ivanov from the Yes Bulgaria party, who had filmed inside a former politician's residence, and that prompted demonstrations. Are you concerned about that as well?
Only one short correction. This was not an MEP. Mr. Hristo Ivanov is the leader of the Democratic Bulgaria, one of the parties from last year, from the protest parties. And indeed, corruption and fight against corruption and rule of law, this is the most important base and pillars of democracy. Bulgaria followed and tried to follow all the recommendations of the European Commission under the verification and cooperation verification mechanism for the reforms in the judiciary system and for trials against high-level officials involved in corruption. But as you can see also from some interviews, that the feeling of many people, not only in Bulgaria, but in the whole European Union, is that the people are feeling that there is corruption and not enough is done to fight against corruption. Actually, by the last reports from the last year was that Bulgaria is in the middle of this feeling of corruption when you see other member states. But nevertheless, this is a big topic which every government, and this should be not a political party fight, there should be a common understanding that corruption is absolutely not acceptable, political corruption is not acceptable, and the fight needs to be done by all institutions which are related to this. We have the split of power, so we have the judiciary power, the prosecutors, the judges, the Ministry of Interior, which need to collect enough evidences that in the court, these evidences are enough for the judge to give a verdict, a guilty verdict for the particular case. But here is a big question also, the spread of rumors and the misuse of information. For example, now the Minister of Interior spread the information that he heard about wild taping of politicians. Now, this is a famous topic also with Germany and the United States, but also in the context now of Bulgaria. If you say A, you need to say also B. Only rumors are instrument for manipulation in front of elections. If you don't have evidence which are enough to say who is the person who has done an illegal wiretapping of politicians, that means you do a manipulation and disinformation of the society. This is very clear. There should be, if somebody breaks the law, he needs to be punished. This is very clear. But only to spread the rumor that somebody or some anonymous politicians were taped illegally, even the current Prime Minister, Mr. Yanev, was also mentioned that he was among these people, but without any evidence. This is something what we are absolutely not. We think this is not acceptable.
And so what next? You've written your letter, you've raised the issue with MEPs. How are you going to bring this forward?
We promised to our colleagues that we are going to observe and to inform them on the development. We hope, and this is something which every Democrat needs to aim for, fair and transparent elections without any other problems or other dependencies. Every Bulgarian citizen can express his free will during the electoral process. Also, technically, the government needs to ensure that the machine voting is going well, that there is no doubts about this election, about the fairness of the election. And then we will see the results, and according to the results, hopefully Bulgaria will have a stable government, a predictable, stable government, because it's extremely important to have predictable policy in the next years, recovery from the pandemic, investment in green technology, and all these topics, what ensuring labor, enough jobs, and increasing the wealth of the citizens. Many topics which the next government of Bulgaria need to follow and to answer to the demand of the citizens.